Call the meeting to order. Please stand for a pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which it stands. Roll call, please.
Here.
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 Present.
Present. We have one trustee today on Zoom. So we have first on the agenda is the mayoral reports. First is a recognition of a Lakeland Predators state champion wrestler, Leela Carson. Leela, raise your hand. Come on here. All right, don't mess with her. Leela is 10 years old, has been wrestling since the age of 4. Currently finishing up 4th grade at Oakland Elementary School. She had an exceptional year going 54-14, winning 2 national events, USA Winter Nationals in the boys division and Tulsa Nationals, known as the toughest youth tournament in the country. She capped off the season with her 3rd Illinois Girls State title. So, Leela, that is very impressive. We want to congratulate you on your wrestling. So, Antioch, when you get to high school, you're gonna wrestle at Antioch. I know they have girls wrestling now at the state level, right? For high school. Yes, okay. They have a team yet? All right, well, you better tell them to get one ready for you, okay? All right, so congratulations. You wanna take a picture up here? Yeah. Do you have a brother too? Do you wrestle? Did you beat him? No. Well, thank you for coming in. Yeah, congratulations. Next on the agenda, we have a bunch of reappointments. So I'll read the names and the positions, and then I'd entertain a motion to consolidate the approvals in a second. So we have first is reappoint Robert McCarty to the Planning and Zoning Board for till 2026. Reappoint Jessica Sanfilippo to the Planning and Zoning Board till 2026. Reappoint Shelley Christian to the Police Pension Board until 2025. Reappoint Julie Nelson to the Police and Fire Commission until 2026. Reappoint Kelly Nawaraki to the Historic Preservation Commission with a term of 2026, and reappoint Margaret Cole to the Historic Preservation Commission with a term of 2026. Do I have a motion in a second?
Motion to consolidate.
Motion.
Second.
Trustee Bluthart, second. Trustee Peterson. Any discussion about this? All right, roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes, I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing Lori.
Oh, yes.
Peterson? Yes.
6 voting yes, motion carries. Margaret Cole. Okay, we have one individual here in person. The rest will be sworn in by the clerk at a later date. So we have Margaret Cole. Will you come up here to be sworn in, please? Or reappointed, resworn in. You know the drill.
I, Margaret Cole, having been appointed as member of the Historic Preservation Commission of the Village of Antioch and the County of Lake, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Illinois, and I will faithfully discharge the duties of the Historic Preservation Commissioner to the best of my ability.
All right. Do we have anybody signed up on the list? So, all right, citizens wishing to address the board, there's a list. Last call for that list to address the board this evening. For those of you who are here for acknowledgements, don't you could. Where, yeah, yeah. Where do you want to go to dinner? Okay. Even better. All right. Congratulations. Okay, so we have 3 items on the consent agenda. Do we have any motion to remove any of those items from the consent agenda? All right. Otherwise, I entertain a motion and a second to approve the 3 items on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion trustee Peterson,
Second.
second trustee Berman, roll call please.
Berman,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Pierce,
aye,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
6 voting yes, motion carries. On to the regular business. First item on the agenda is consideration and approval to ratify payments of accounts payable as prepared by staff in the amount of $504,768.13. Do I have a motion and a second? So moved. Motion trustee Bluthart,
Second.
second trustee McNeil, welcome. All right, any discussion regarding this item? All right, roll call please.
Berman,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Pierce,
aye,
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
6 voting yes, motion carries. All right, next, this is a mouthful, but consideration and approval of a resolution accepting and awarding a bid for the downtown community open space project, awarding the project to Bowler Construction Company, Inc. as the lowest responsive and responsible bidder for said project contingent upon DCEO approval and authorizing the mayor or his designated representative to enter into an agreement for such project work for the village of Antioch, resolution number 23-31. Do I have a motion in a second?
so moved,
Motion trustee Pierce,
Second.
second trustee Peterson. Discussion items. Obviously, the village administrator is here to answer questions. The bidder is here to answer questions, so I'll open the floor to this side of the dais here. So trustee Berman, do you have anything?
Yeah, just a couple things. So in regards to the additional bids, I just want to be clear that from tonight and then if it comes back before the board in the future, I know about for that.
Are you talking about the alternates?
The alternate bids,
Okay.
yeah. Sorry, I think it's additional,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I get you.
I do feel that price tag's getting to be quite hefty. So I just wanted to be open about that tonight. And then I don't know if it's probably to ask this question. But do we know what kind of a impact this whole project, because it's gonna be about a year and a half. Do we know what kind of an impact that's gonna have? And if,
On roads,
yeah, like the surrounding village roads, if they're gonna be,
you know, it's very well positioned on State Route 83. If it generates traffic on a daily basis, and I anticipate the park playground feature would, you know,
oh, I'm sorry, I think I guess it's more. As far as for the construction.
our
Like
road
the-
program,
No, I'm sorry. The machinery, like the heavy machinery and the trucks that are bringing in stuff.
no. Highway 83 is a truck route, we see very heavy stuff. And Orchard was built with a hefty cross section as well. So I wouldn't anticipate, you know, the heaviest equipment. It's larger excavators, concrete trucks, our roads can certainly tolerate.
Trustee Bluthart?
I guess I'll direct my questions. Yeah. Assuming we accept this or this passes this evening, when would construction start?
As fast as possible. So I would anticipate, there's usually about 30-day period where contracts get executed, bid bonding is accomplished. The contractor needs time to mobilize. But, we'd be trying to start this, I would imagine, end of June, beginning of July.
And on the limited information I have on what was provided, it mentions a change completion date from May 26th to September 1st. That's one of the options, the bid document. Are there any built-in penalties for being late?
Yes, or liquidated damages. So if the contractor doesn't perform, hit the milestones without good reason, you know, there could be, you know, things that are legitimately could cause a delay, which can push back the completion date. But barring that, we'll keep track of days lost, and if the contractor isn't done substantially complete by the date in there or the date we agree upon after lost days, then on a per day basis, the data damages the contractor has to pay up.
Then just one more quick one is, what is the period throughout the year that they'll be working? Is there a point in time next winter when they would stop, or is it pretty much go nonstop throughout the season if weather allows?
I'm envisioning this project to be active nearly all of the time. However, it's up to the means and methods of the contractor. If they, you know, if they deem it in their best interest, to let's say not construct in February or January based on weather conditions or something like that, or what's next in line, they'll stage the project, and their means and methods will determine what they work on when. But it doesn't change the date, you know, but I'm envisioning any work that could be accomplished in weather conditions, you know, that are suitable, but they will be active. Fairly aggressive schedule, so I envision this project to be active nearly the whole time, barring maybe just the worst cold conditions.
Nothing further at this time.
Trustee McNeil?
My only comment I did express to Jim already was that I was interested in the Babbling Brook feature, and I'm still intrigued by it. I don't know if you can see any pictures or the pros and cons. I briefly discussed with Jim. There's a little bit of a cost factor, obviously, as Katrina mentioned, but I just envision it as a beautiful flow, and it's like we've come so far. I think it would be a nice sort of cap on the project, but I don't know when we would consider, if it would be tonight on these, or if this could be considered down the road, voting yes or no.
And yeah, I should note that for the board, that if there is interest from any board member to include one of the alternates or something else, that can be entertained after the award and working with the contractor to, you know, every project has some change orders. This, as I told you, the Babbling Brook feature isn't actually associated with the creek. It was a circulating separate pumping system that was really an aesthetic feature next to the splash pad creekside to create a really aesthetic pool, had some babbling, you know, moving water in it. It wasn't part of the original, you know, it was never anything that was decided we wanted. It was something the landscape architect kind of said, would this be neat? And it ended up being an alternate because it wasn't part of the original program. We said, well, it's coming good, maybe it would be nice to have it. It could be a continued discussion. It does not need to be decided tonight.
And that would be further like next year when we would be.
So we would probably, you know, if there were going to be a scope change like that, we would try to identify that fairly quickly over the next probably 2 months, something like that, because they need time, lead times, and it could affect other things that they're doing on site. So we can try to figure that out fairly quickly.
I don't know if anyone else is interested in it, but I'll listen to everyone else's comments. That was all I really had. Thank you for answering.
You, Trustee Basic?
Uh,
Oh, I'm sorry. Trustee Pierce, I looked at the seat.
I'm sorry, I know the seat's empty, and if Ed wants to talk first, he's more than welcome to. If not, I'll just continue.
Oh, go ahead, yeah.
First of all, I want to say I think this is a momentous moment for the village where we're going to take a substantial step and change what our downtown looks like and what the activities in our downtown look like. Am I happy about the price? No, I wish it was less. But I also know that when I go to the gas station, I wish it was less. And when I go buy a carton of eggs, I wish they were less, and milk. Everything in this world has gone up so crazy that it's terrible. When we started talking about this, we were below 10 million. Now we're at 12.5, and plus items we've already paid for. And so I'm not happy about that, but I also understand that this is a once in a lifetime opportunity for the village to because the stars have aligned in our favor to where we could even think about something like this. 22 years ago, when I first got into politics, I couldn't even envision being able to do something like this. We were just hoping we could get the Pittman property, never to be called that again, in covered and safe and looking at least acceptable for people who drive by. Now we're looking at transforming our downtown. So I think we need to take the next board meeting to look at the additional options, as Trustee McNeil said, and come to a conclusion if we want those, because we're only going to get one shot at the apple. And if we fail to take that shot at the apple, 50 years from now, we'll be going, maybe that would have been a little bit nicer if we spent the money back then instead of trying to do it today. So I'm in favor of this. I'm in favor of looking at the additional options. And I think this is a once in a lifetime chance for the village of Antioch. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Trustee Masek?
I won't, I agree with what Trustee Pierce said. I'm just worried that we build this thing and we have a maintenance program to go along with it, so it doesn't get dilapidated in years. They just spent $12 million 10 years later. So I understand that one idealistic. I think you should keep money in reserve just in case down the road. If you have pumps break, where's that money coming from? Every time you added a gadget to it, you got cost. So I would have to have, Jim, if you have details on pumps, repair costs, everything else, because that's the items that are gonna break.
It's gonna be similar, I think, to experience we've had at the pool. There's a lot of pumping and mechanicals at the pool to supply the vortex and spray features.
Would they be vandalized? Do we have the boxes down there necessarily full boxes, are those planned?
Oh, yeah,
So,
everything's included.
so
So it can't be vandalized. Most of the mechanicals, nearly all of the mechanicals for that splash pad are enclosed in the building. So they cannot be vandalized. To give you an idea, if we were to have to replace a pool pump, and we've talked about that we're getting 10 years into the pool, and should we be, keeping a spare pump, you're talking about a $10,000 pump we're gonna have to have. So there are those costs, as well as lighting, light bulbs are gonna need to be changed, and furniture is gonna need to be changed out, and gardening and landscaping. There's gonna be much different program for this park. It will require some type of annual maintenance, landscaping, on a probably weekly basis to take care of flower beds and things like that. So there's gonna be an additional operational cost moving forward with this, but I think we all do that, or we're cognizant of that. I think it's a very good point you're bringing up, so everybody's aware. This comes from a
the
continuum.
other point, when we had the event on the is that it's in a Dennis, but our subcontractors our grass cutters, the weeds, police department, the uncut stuff. That's gonna be an additional cost. And we gotta make sure everything's pristine. We don't have what the police department looks like. For the event that they're trying to fundraise for a Special Olympics, everything else. You get weeds growing out.
Yeah, that area was newly planted, so they did not mow it based on the mesh that's down, and we're trying to establish that turf again, so it did get much higher, but it was intentionally not mowed based on its
Side of the overhead.
I'm just talking about in front where.
No, I used to start saying.
Yeah, I guess I'm not sure what then you were referring to.
All the time. Just. Even here. When you walk by it, I get it. It's free, but you look for it. You walk by it, you don't see it every day. You know, these.
Thank you. Trustee Peterson?
I'm so glad we're moving forward with this. I too would like to see some details. We know that there's, especially possibly this summer, we're going into a drought. Hope we don't say we're going too, so there's not gonna be a whole lot of water in the creek. So I just thought it would look a little bit more aesthetically pleasing to have some kind of pump water through there.
So I think there's some confusion. Babbling Brook feature is named Babbling Brook, but it has virtually no hydraulic impact on how the stream is going to operate. So the creek itself is specifically designed to move water along during low flow conditions. They do that by necking it down and creating, rifts and pools, and it undulates to where, and there's actually three weirs that are installed in this to give it some slope. There's very little slope between the culverts coming into that site and leaving that site. So we're going to create some artificial elevations of that creek, with very small cross sections. So where the lowest flow in the watershed, it's a fairly large watershed, you'll continue to see movement. That was a big discussion. I was originally concerned about high flow, flood conditions, but the discussions in the engineering and the hydraulic team really were focused on that low flow. So don't think the inclusion of this Babbling Brook feature, which is a pumping, recirculating system, it's not going to have an impact on the hydraulics of this. It's, so don't wait that.
So we are going to see water through there on a continual basis.
Yes, I would like to represent that will always be the case, but I stay away from absolutes. In the worst drought, could the stream stop completely? I've never seen it happen. I suppose it's possible.
Okay.
But under normal circumstances, you're going to see flow through that creek during all weather events or drought events.
Okay, that's all I have.
Anything else, or is it time? It's time. All right. Roll call, please.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason, Peterson,
Yes.
All right, 6 voting yes, motion carries. 3 years of a lot of hard work right there. So thank you to all, especially Administrator Kime, who spent many hours and probably didn't sleep much last night. So, okay.
Jim, I don't see any trucks over there.
All right. Next item, number 6, consideration and approval of authorizing the village administrator to execute an agreement with Strand Associates, Inc. for engineering services, resolution number 23-32. I'll entertain a motion in a second. Motion trustee Mason.
Second.
Second trustee Peterson. Discussion on this item.
I don't have any cards.
Trustee Luther.
I don't even know where to start. Jim, I need a real good couple-minute explanation of all of this that's included in this price.
So we're delivering this project in a very traditional method, which is the design bid build. And typically, when you move into the build phase, which we also call phase 3, these are phase 3 construction engineering services. So they include project staking, they include construction observation, they include project documentation, any requests and clarification of the documents and what is to be built. They're called RFIs, requests for information. They will be processing those. They'll be keeping track of quantities. This is a line item type contract where we have quantities and unit prices for line items. And that whoever is assigned to this will be tracking those quantities, how much concrete, how much dirt was moved, what was accomplished and when. There will inevitably be changes proposed that will need to be reviewed by the design engineers. And that's why in a traditional delivery method like this, you use the same engineering firm who designed it. So they're very familiar with the documents and can adjust them on the fly if there are changes needed or conflicts that are experienced. So this is just a very traditional way to deliver the project. I think there's over 2,300 hours of service time included in this for an estimated PSC is $447,000. But this is I think a necessary. You certainly don't think I can be on site all day. It's not that way. We have to have something in place, and this is what I would say is the most straightforward way to get those services accomplished, to make sure the village delivers a quality project, holds the contractor's feet to the fire, and mitigates whatever comes during this project from start to finish.
Were there any other firms contacted or quoted this same services?
I did talk to a CM firm who basically provides construction management services. I had a conversation with them. Possibility of going a different direction. It's a different delivery method. It's involving another party to the table. That is not the design engineer and it's not the contractor, it's not the owner. That fee it was a percentage fee, and that fee based on at that time, I think the project that was estimated more than $1 million less was over $600,000. So I did have some conversations about a different way to do this. This is probably the most cost-effective, straightforward way to do it, in my opinion. It's very common to have your design engineer provide phase 3 services.
The dollar amount, is there a reason, or are we not allowed to put this out to bid? Or why would we not put this out to bid?
Introducing a completely, a party that's not been a part of this design that, would be another spoke in the wheel of having to get familiar with this. And essentially, there's opinions about construction management services from, it would essentially be a construction management service or an owner rep that would come in. I don't know that it would save you any money. And they sometimes will present another intermediate between the parties. I prefer to deal with the contractor personally on when issues come up. But on the day-to-day business of documenting, observing what's happened, documenting quantities, staking the job, processing all the paperwork, there's going to be a massive amount of paperwork between the contractor and the village and the engineers flying back and forth. I don't know that you would want a separate party doing that literally has no relationship to the documents.
I mean, we've had general discussions about this, but we haven't fine-tuned it like this. Because with all the different projects we have going on in the village, would it not make sense to have someone that oversaw all those projects and not just an individual project like this?
It would be a discussion. I mean, me and the mayor have discussed construction management, hiring a project manager. It would be a temporary position after construction's done. That person wouldn't be here anymore. It's a conversation. I think one could argue either way. Typically, construction management services are better serving the village when that construction manager is on during the design and have a hand this whole time. Bringing a CM in at this juncture doesn't make sense probably to a lot of people. Certainly doesn't make sense to me. I would not recommend you go that direction. This is the traditional customary way this project should. It's what we anticipate. This is not out of line for what I anticipate.
And no more questions at this time.
Trustee McNeil?
Trustee Luthar asked a lot of my questions. This is new to me, so thank you for explaining all of it. I guess my only final question would be, you have no crystal ball, so we would never hold you to this, but not being familiar with these agreements, do you think that this could go over this amount easily, or do you think that this would reasonably, without things going awry, cover what we need? And also, do we have extra funds? Should we need more?
Great questions. If we do not encounter something we just don't know about, as long as there isn't something ominous below the subsurface that we just don't know about, I'm anticipating this coming in at or under this amount, because I think there's going to be some effort made here to attempt to value engineer it in some regard, without compromising the quality of the project and the work of the project. It's very deliberately designed to the materials and what's included here. And this base bid accomplishes everything we set out to do. But I have a track record of being fairly aggressive, involved in these processes. I don't take change orders lightly. I look for solutions and then my best experience probably at the wastewater plant when we constructed that, that was a $16 million job. We came in at less than 5% over, and there were some very good reasons for that, because there were some things that weren't included in the bid documents. Probably the biggest problem would be is if you have a set of construction docs that aren't proper, but we have selected the very best, I think, regional designers. And I think that the plan set's been reviewed by me over and over, and I don't foresee having things that are big problems with the bid docs and construction docs. So unless there's a dinosaur over there that I don't know about, I think we're gonna come in very close to the final. And the second part of that question was, do we have, if it did go over, do we have one? Well, you do, but you'd be utilizing, as we are now with a higher price than expected, we're gonna be utilizing more bond funds we anticipated, which means that we may have shortages for the other projects we're considering. And we will probably need to make an effort to seek out new funds to do everything we've been talking about, because as we see what price has affected this project, it's also affected all the projects we've been talking about. So I foresee that we're going to be aggressively looking for other funds to do everything we've contemplated in our capital. But we do have the money to do this.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Trustee Pierce?
I'm thinking about what Trustee Bluthart was discussing. What would be the impact of not having Strand as part of our go forward operation?
You'd essentially be not monitoring the project. You'd be giving a free hand to the contractor to do whatever they want to do out there. And you'd have no documentation or very little of what actually happened during construction. And you have to trust that every application for payment was correct. They actually used the quantity. I would consider it flying blind.
Okay. Because I am concerned, you mentioned we don't want to compromise the project, but until the last moment, we've discussed all these alternative items and we're cutting those out, but we're going ahead with additional monies for something else. And I'm concerned, and I'll go back to, I would like the additional items on the next agenda for discussion. And I would also like a construction manager for all our projects on the discussion, so we could say yay or nay, or have that discussion at the board level. So I would ask formally that those get put on the next agenda by the mayor. Other than that,
Duly noted on that.
I think it's time to move forward and get this project going. I do want to take one moment, because I missed doing it in the last statement. There's been a lot of people, this board, our staff, former board members, former mayors, that have been actively involved in this dream. And I think everybody needs to have credit for that. And that's it, Your Honor.
Thank you. Thank you. Trustee Basic.
So Jim, this is all done. I do certs all the time for these types of projects. Where you've got this type of equipment in place. Certs take me about 30 minutes to do. I hope you got a good written cert that you're going to do. So whoever's the agent on this, 30 minutes to do this. So this is done. This is routinely done with the project manager looking over papers all the time, especially government work. Even on major private work, these are done. So this is not an unusual ask. So I don't understand why everybody's questioning it. I see it when I do 10 certs a month. I gotta do certs with owners, with all the wording. It takes me 30 minutes to do, so I'm fine with it. this type of program.
Yeah, I think I was expecting this, and I think I failed to relate to the board that this was coming. There was never in my mind a situation where we were gonna have face to services.
Right.
I think I failed to relay that to you. I'm sensing that this was unanticipated from your perspective, which is totally my fault.
I knew this part was coming, but yeah, it's sometimes it's like you said, based off a percentage base, not a fee base.
This particular is gonna be hourly, so I will see others.
So,
All right, trustee Peterson.
I'm pretty comfortable with approving this tonight. You know that this is, from my previous experience on this board. Certain things that are just in place. And what we need to do. It helps the staff. Makes them more comfortable with this project, and, they know that it's happening the way the board needs it to do it. And feel comfortable with this, so I'll be a yes for this.
Jim, before, we move on, just for people that haven't been involved in these big construction projects before, or it's new to them, can you explain briefly the structure of the hierarchy from you as the owner and down through, like, I think it'd be probably Strand underneath you, and then the general contractor, and then all their stuff.
So I look at it as a triangle, you know. There's a relationship here between us as owners, contractor we're selecting to build this, and the engineering design team that has designed this. It's to me the most customary, straightforward way to deliver a project: design, bid, build. So we're of course at the top of the food chain. We're holding the purse for payment. We're the owner. We should get what we want. The contractor has, you know, rights and responsibilities to perform, and you know they need to protect themselves. They're doing this to as a for-profit enterprise. Obviously, they need to make their money, and they need a fair shake in all of this. So the hierarchy really to me is a good communication and working relationship between all three people on that triangle: the owner, the designers, and the contractor.
You have the architect, so you can triangle that all up.
Yeah, I'm gonna put all of them in that one corner, all the designers.
All those people listed as different designers.
And they have, and the engineers and architects all have to be responsible for what they put on paper. If there are problems found that are obvious design errors, you know, there probably are some. You know, nothing is perfect on paper when you get out in the real world. But if there are major omissions, you know, then we have to hold our designers accountable as well. And those conversations will occur in bi-weekly progress meetings, and we all sit down and talk about things. And I'm just looking forward to a very good working relationship between those three parties to deliver this job on time, on budget, and deliver the community a quality project that I think we all have looked forward to. So that's my best explanation, Mayor, for how that works.
Any other discussion or anything before we call roll?
I just have one question. You said that Strand designed it, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah, and you've successfully worked with Strand before. I just want to put in the record that we've had a successful relationship with them at the village before the vote goes through.
this is the first job they've done for the village, but it's been successfully accomplished according to my expectations of what our engineers should do and how they should perform and produce on a job like this.
Very well put. Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Berman,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Yes.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes,
All right, 6 voting yes, motion carries. That kid to participate in something. All right, so next is acceptance of the annual treasurer's sworn statement. The Antioch Police Pension Fund for fiscal year ended April 30th, 2023. Finance Director Zeta Torres.
Thank you, Mayor and Board. This report is just a standard report. is driven by state statute. I am required to provide the Village of Antioch Board the total summary for fiscal year 23. All the treasurer's report summaries to you tonight as a presentation of the year-to-date total. This is pretty standard. That's it.
Thank you. Any questions regarding this item from any of the trustees? All right, I'd entertain a motion in a second to approve this. Motion trustee Mason,
Second.
second trustee Berman, roll call please.
Berman,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
6 voting yes, the motion carries. Last item on the regular agenda is consideration and approval of an ordinance amending sections 8-4-1 and 8-4B-2 of the Antioch Village Code regarding hours that public parks and the sanctuary will be open to the public. Ordinance number 23-05-10. I'd entertain the motion in a second, waiving the second reading. Trustee Mason, motion.
Second.
Trustee Bluthart, seconds. Yeah, so this was discussed, any other discussion that you want to have on this? It's basically just to. Let's
Got one
close.
discussion. Well, prior to you becoming your greatness, we talked about putting a gate at Peterson Park. And prevent people from camping down there, people from going there past the designated closing hours. I still think we should put that in the program too, so, because that's so secluded. Can't get cameras down there, we should seclude it, just to keep the.
So you're talking like the forest preserve, does it?
Right. Just to keep the drifters out, keep the bad people out, keep the people, because that's, you know, you got like Tripoli back there, you've got people that can go back there, come that way, park their cars. And who knows what the back of those houses, back off the hillside there, so. It just makes it a smart idea back anyway, that might go down there. I know the rape shed's gone, so.
Do we have a CSO that's in the evenings ever, or usually just during that?
We're currently in the process of restructuring hours.
Okay.
With the pending full-time CSO hire.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not sure what they're gonna look like yet, but it really does become a biggest challenge is having consistent closing time at that point. Historically, we have routinely controlled the park after dark.
That's, you talk to the officer, you go down with eyes wide open, and someone's not down.
Yes. And this just makes it a little easier for us. Consolidates all of our work hours rather than having some open until 10 p.m. Some open until a little earlier. It makes it easier. No problems with that vandalism. No good things happen in parks out there.
Right, but definitely be something we should still consider, yeah, okay. Opposed to that. Any other discussion on this? All right, roll call please.
Berman,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Yes.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
All right, 6 voting yes, motion carries. We have the administrator's reports.
Thank you, Your Honor. Since I last reported to you, it's been a fairly busy time for me. Certainly have spent a lot of time on this project and bidding process. But I've also had a chance to monitor intensive meetings about the concert, the big concert that's happening next week. A lot of planning going into that. I think we're in good position for the larger crowd that we are expecting. And along the lines as I reported, we're going to be looking for money. I did go down to IDOT District 1 in Schaumburg for a morning to the afternoon to talk to IDOT about potential funding grants, specifically targeting additional funds for Grim Road. So I had a chance to speak with some folks at IDOT. Didn't sound all too promising, but I think there may be some opportunities for safe routes to school, economic development grants for highway projects, what they call ITEP, which funds lighting streetscapes and pedestrian paths. So just know that I am actively looking for sources of. And along those lines as well, we met with, Freddie, Schmoody, our grant writer person, had a very nice conversation about our projects. The grant monies that we've been promised from the state of Illinois that we can't seem to find, potential new grants and ways to fund, projects. So that was a very promising meeting. That Freddie seems very, astute, knowledgeable on funding sources and processes to get those fundings. And we're equipping her now with all of our information to see what she can come up with. So work continues on that. And today I attended a 911 regional consolidation meeting. I'm not sure if you're all aware of the effort that's been underway for about 3 years now to get rid of all the 911 dispatch centers and consolidate them into a common dispatch center in Libertyville. That will actually be breaking ground in about a month. County has put a lot of money into it. I think it's in the neighborhood of $50 million project. But we got rid of our dispatch center years ago, consolidated into CENTCOM. This is kind of a bigger version of that. But it's been on my radar as to, how this is actually happening and what our costs are going to be. My main, objective is to determine what are our costs for dispatch services going to be in this new model, which they conveniently didn't answer today. So I signed up for the finance committee to see if I can gain some insight and or influence how much this does cost us. Just know that there's a big project going on that we are tangentially involved in through CENTCOM. CENTCOM's because we're a member of CENTCOM for dispatch. They are really representing all of the communities that are dispatched by CENTCOM. So the Chief Gutchow was there, Chief Coker was there, most of the police chiefs, fire chiefs in the county were there today as well. So we attended those meetings. Just some updates. Williams Architects continues to work on the Village Hall space needs, the public works space needs. Village Hall is leading that a little bit. They're a little farther ahead. We do have, I think, a workable layout. There's a few changes I think they owe us. But I think we're getting much closer to showing you what a floor plan of a Village Hall and that location may look like. What works will be sometime in the future. We're not quite there yet with a floor layout that's making sense to us. As you know, Grim Road, I'm working with the village attorney on securing easements, creating agreements for right-of-way acquisition for the new Grim Road location, as well as easements for utilities that will serve that area. So that work continues. The clarifier project currently going. The floor slab has been completely removed and they're replacing the main feed pipe that was cracked under that floor slab. So that work continues. Once that is completed, they'll start pouring and the steel will come in and start pouring in the floor. So that work continues. There's been a major hiccup so far. Unless there's something else somebody would like me to report on that.
One thing I was remiss in my mayor's report. The Veterans Committee, I did speak to them recently. The soil borings came back. Jim can speak to those, but they are working on, they submitted the design of the project and then it would go to Manhart for further construction, but other people too.
Yeah, the soil borings were great. Closer we get to the creek, the poorer the soils get, and that's probably expected. I think there's a lot of made land or fill that's been placed over the years, but it wasn't horrible at the end of the day. I think if we position the memorial, I don't know what the geometry exactly looks like, and that's what I think the committee's going to be working on, and that Manhart will use to start to design it. There'll be a little bit of soil work there. It's overdig and bigger rock brought in to be able to support the foundations for the monuments, however heavy they are. So that's where it's at now. We now have an understanding of what the soil conditions are. I think we're very close to having some kind of conceptual layout done by David Cornus down the street here on what this thing may look like. And then we have an agreement, a handshake, with Pete Manhart of Manhart Consulting to design it at low or no cost. So far that's been working out very well for us. So more to come.
Any questions?
Simple question. I don't know if you're the appropriate person to ask, but with the memorial, I thought that people could make donations at the bank, but when I went, nobody knew what I was talking about. Is there gonna be something rolling out, or is that for the subcommittee, like a link or something?
It's good. I don't know much about it, but there is a committee or there is an entity, I
Should
believe,
be a 501c3.
that's been formed. And
And
I
on
think
their Facebook page is actual PO box you can send a payment to or a check to. It's just initial stages. I sit on that fundraising committee, but it's just.
I'm very hopeful that they have QR codes and stuff ready for the June 8th concert, because
They're gonna have a big.
and they're gonna have a booth at the farmers markets as well.
Or you just give me cash.
All right, thank you, Administrator Kime. Village Clerk, do you have any report?
Again, I can't hear her.
We've been busy with licensing. The licenses expire today for liquor, food and tobacco, processing all of those, trying to get those out before the expirations, and in an attempt to manage our records before the building, we've shredded boxes of documents for the state.
Thank you. On to the department reports tonight. You can see on the agenda, we have Finance, Public Works, Communication, Parks. So first, Finance Director Zeta Torres.
Thank you. At the end of the fiscal year, we completed our entire budget process. And during the month of May, we spent time creating a comprehensive budget book for all of you and the staff. The budget book entails capital plan, any changes that we meant for the current year, the new year coming in. We also provide you a history, a lot of charts, a lot of data regarding revenues, expenses, and history. It also provides you debt service information, a history of debt. It provides everybody's story. Every department head was invited to put a story of their department, their accomplishment, and their mission, and their future, what they plan to do for this budget year. It also gives you great data on tax levy. It gives you the information. So that will be available to you by the end of this week. We finished it yesterday. We hope to have it to you by Friday completed. And we're also going to give it to Jim Moran so that he can put it on the website. I invite you to look at the book, reach out to me if you have any questions and anything you would like to see in the future to make the book better. I welcome your ideas. Also, we started our field day. So as we end the budget, we enter into audit season. Us accountants with black and white, we have 2 seasons. We have budget and audit, and now is the audit season. So we had our first field day work where the auditors come in. They look at all the bank transactions. Usually they review human resources. This time they extended it to August. They look at our deposits, they look at our payroll, they look at the GL, and then they give us a list of information that we need to get ready the next 3 months for them to come a full week, which entails at this time is the season where we do the most accounting, transaction, and processing, because we take the village's financial books and we turn them from cash basis to accrual basis. So we monitor everything that comes in all the way to July 1st, because some of the items, as I expressed in the budget presentation, some invoices will come in the first couple of months of the new year, but they belong in last year's budget. So we monitor that closely. So the auditors give us a whole list of all the things that we need to do, and we continue working until then. Right now, the budget is in our financial software, so everybody's ready to operate according to the budget. That's all I have tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any questions? All right, thank you. Public Works. We have Dennis here to give us a Public Works update.
Well, was gonna bring up how the crews have been doing the mulch and the weeding, but it sounds like you're unhappy.
It's not.
Well, actually, the police department isn't in the. But there was, as I'm calling that, we did not cut it on purpose due to the fact that it was new growth and it was just reseeded in April by the contractor that had the whole project. So, but we are watering it on basically every other day basis along with all the planters and the hanging baskets. I hope you've seen them. We've got all them out. They look really nice, or at least I think they do. And we'll just continue with our landscaping efforts. We focus on Village Hall and it went out from here. They're currently down by the band shell, so we hope to have all that wrapped up in the wetlands for next week's event. And we'll continue on into the parks and so forth. The roadway traffic painting, I'm currently considering different roads to improve the striping. One of them will simply be Orchard here. It's very faded. We'll touch up top. And then I'll look at some other roadways that just started that. So it'll be a pair of involvement between us doing it in-house, and we'll utilize the county DOT with their striping vehicles. So they have a large operation that come through. They did Tiffany Road, Nelson Road, Savage Road for us a couple years ago for quite a while. And it was good price. So we're currently organizing interviews summer out. So hopefully that goes on. I can bring 2 to 3 on board within the next week or two, and that'll help us with a lot of the miscellaneous stuff that our full-time staff do, like garbage or weeding and stuff like that. So I can get them on more important projects to use their skills. The water department, over the past month or 3-4 weeks, they repaired 3 underground water system repairs, 4 hydrants, and relocated 1 hydrant by the library. Obviously, sidewalks are about in this gravel, so once we can finally come back for that, but we had a leak, but we actually moved it back. It was encroaching in the sidewalk after 83 was done, so we hopefully give pedestrians a little more room. In utilizing the water department, we utilized a contractor. It was budgeted, and we accomplished to clean the exteriors of 2 towers. One was by Raymond in the high school back there by the Kia, and then the other one was here in Harvard. Basically go up in high lifts and power wash all the debris that collects. In April, late April, I was invited and participated in a ComEd. They had a joint, call it a JLC, is a Joint Operation Center training, and it's a new, or I guess an improved operations for them in response to hazardous weather and power outages. They basically created an online program that allows the county or local governments to go on and report outages, mainly related to critical facilities, whether it be PD has a backup generator, but one of our lift stations is down, or there's a heating, we have a cooling center or a heating center. Village Hall, of course, is on the list. So I can go in there and identify where the outage is and how it's affecting our infrastructure or our town, and then they take that and prioritize it for their response. So they're trying to improve on their outage responses as they're not fully aware of everything in our town. They have a list, but they're not here. So hopefully that will help in the future with outages. That's it for my report. Unless you have any questions.
I just got one question. Just keep me on. Jim came up with an idea. This would go with the traffic study group with the painting out here. How much would you think paint would cost if we took some of the traffic areas that are kind of fast and we painted the speed zone on the way, like you got Hillside by the cemetery, which people do to cut through there. and do 45 miles an hour because they don't want to go through the stoplight. And you put 25 miles an hour both sides of the road. Or you take Hillside by my office, he did the same thing. Just a thought, if that was, as you said, it slowed down traffic here. That would be something the traffic study would take, but let's try it with one road.
Yeah, we can,
Because it'd
definitely
be a
talk
cost
offline.
to the paint and the outline. We'd have 25 and we'd be doing with open holes, it's a bad area and open holes. Maybe that's just a simple solution. Silly things like that, maybe.
We can look into it and I can come up with cost. I don't know if there's stencils, if how large of a 25 you're.
Well, it'd
thinking,
be,
but
it'd be the lane, so you're driving over the lane, and that's probably the biggest cost is the two stencils, 25 miles an hour, or whatever.
yeah, I can look at
Yeah.
proposal costs.
You might need a patent attorney.
What?
You might need a patent attorney out there, I guess.
Oh, I'm in, yes. Oh, that's like,
Yes, all right, no, it's a good idea. Thank you, Dennis. Next is, Jim Moran. Welcome to the podium.
Good evening, Board, Mayor. A couple highlights, going back to last month, we participated in Lake County Restaurant Week, which is, our village is a member of the Visit Lake County Convention and Visitors Bureau. And it's exciting to see our participation in Restaurant Week locally. Last year and this year, we're one of the higher participating communities that participate in Restaurant Week. And what that does is all the promotion that Visit Lake County does with Restaurant Week and also that we do, it establishes us as a restaurant community to people throughout Lake County and throughout the area. And it's exciting to kind of see that branding take place to really promote our restaurant community. I was just at a Visit Lake County thing earlier today where they were talking about their next year planning. And one of the things they talked about was Restaurant Week, and they highlighted the things that we did in Antioch as far as promoting Restaurant Week and promoting our restaurants. So it's good to see that we're the trendsetter when it comes to stuff like that. And it's more importantly, helping our local business community. And with that, as we invest in bigger events like the concerts that are coming up, one of the things that we've talked about before was working with our businesses to better take advantage of having people downtown or more larger groups of people downtown. So on May 15th, we held a merchant meeting in this room. It was in collaboration with the Antioch Chamber and also the Shop Antioch group. We probably had almost 24 people in this room participating. We had a speaker come in, talk about different shop ideas and different ideas for them to get ready to take advantage of the busy summer that we're going to have here in Antioch with a lot of visitors to downtown. With that, with our concert season coming up, like Jim had mentioned, we've had several planning meetings. We have another coming up this Friday, or our last one before next Thursday's concert. We've got a busy summer lined up for the farmers market. It starts next Thursday. The June 8th kickoff concert with Rodney Atkins that's gotten tremendous visibility as far as media coverage and newspaper and radio. So we're excited for that. So it's going to be a busy summer event wise. Another event coming up later this summer that I've been helping Barbara plan is the August 25th Chamber Golf outing. So those of you that are golfers, just make sure it's on your calendar if you're interested. August 25th will be the Chamber Golf outing. And then coming up this Saturday, we have the wine walk. I've been working with the Parks Department to help promote that. It's exciting to see. I think if we're not sold out, we're literally a couple tickets away from selling out at 500 tickets, which is the biggest wine walk since I've been here. So it's exciting to see those numbers get back up to pre-pandemic and just getting a lot of people downtown. So with the marketing for the wine walk, we usually partner with Star 105 Radio out of Crystal Lake. Part of the promotion that they do is they spend a week doing a radio contest, wine or wine not. The listeners call up and guess which wine names are real and which are fake. Makes for good radio. It really helps establish, really, I guess, help promotes the wine walk. It really helps us stand out. So it's exciting to have that partnership. Star 105, what they've done is simulcast several of the radio stations in their network. So we're also now 1023 WXLC out of Waukegan. So for around the same price, we get a lot more coverage. And just a couple of public relations things I wanted to point out. Usually, like tonight, I'll work with Jim to put out a press release announcing the accepting of you guys passing the bid documents, and we're moving forward with the park construction. This is going to be exciting to help promote that. One of the things that we did that we usually, the news event is what happened tonight. One of the things we did this time is when we published the bid documents, we put out a press release, and we got some great news exposure out of that. WBBM radio ran a news story about it. We were, I think, on the front page or page 2 of the Daily Herald. So we got considerable publicity then. Now we'll get more publicity about the park. So again, that's good branding for the village. So, any questions?
Can you,
I'd really like just a real brief summary of what we have going on for next Thursday. Because I mean, I'm getting people at my work down in Elk Grove talking about it. I mean, so I just would like if maybe you and the chief could kind of jointly just fill us in on what the plans are if we do get to some type of capacity issue, so that we just kind of have an understanding of what's behind the scenes.
Sure. Yeah, I've been working closely, as a team. Actually, we've been working together planning for the concert. One of the things that we're ready for a sizable crowd. The exposure that we've gotten, like a good example, the Daily Herald wrote a nice article a couple weeks ago that went crazy viral on social media. There's been a lot of chatter and a lot of buzz about our community. It's nice to, like the function I went to today, a lot of people looking to Antioch and the stuff that we do and asking how they could do things like that. So it's nice to see that. So we're expecting a larger crowd. Talking to different promoters, if I had to guess, we'll probably have about 5,000 people. That's my guess, but it's a complete guess. There's several factors that come into play. Weather, it is a Thursday night, it's not a Friday night, so kind of Columbia Village on a Thursday night for a concert, is less attractive than a Friday night, so that'll impact attendance. But working with the police department, we have things like we're working in collaboration with the city of North Chicago. They're running us some electronic billboards that we're able to, message boards that we're able to put up on Route 173. And if we hit a situation where, the weather's perfect and 20,000 people decide to descend onto downtown Antioch, we're able to quickly, it's all Wi-Fi enabled and stuff. We're able to update the message boards to say the venue's full, go home, thank you for coming, come back tomorrow. That's something like that. So we're prepared from that aspect. Also, just Chief Butchow can speak to it where I can. I know working with Commander Garcia, they have an incident plan where they have police coverage for every square foot of the band shell area. So they're prepared to, if it's comparable sized Royal Bliss or a little bit more, or considerably more, they have a plan in place on shutting down Orchard and as the crowd comes in, assessing and being able to kind of be best set for a large crowd.
What about parking?
So we're promoting, like last year, the Metro Lot. Probably the best example of parking in our town is the 4th of July every year, where 10,000 people come in for the 4th of July and they find parking. As a whole, the village has a lot of parking spaces that are available. We're promoting the Metro Lot. There's parking here off of Toft. I talked to the high school, they're aware of the concert and they're okay with people parking there. We're probably not going to promote the high school specifically, but it's a big empty parking lot that'll probably fill up. Working with the police department, we're anticipating a large crowd and everything that we have in place, we feel comfortable being able to accommodate it.
Perfect, thank you.
all right, thank you.
Just one
Yeah.
comment. If Ainsley Brooks is listening, just that we make sure in the park, we get her involved in the memorialized museum. Just so everything, to start, you know, because it's an empty field right now, that she puts something, start to finish. So everything's kind of memorialized in her end, so she, wherever that museum ends up. So someone 50 years from now can sit there and trivialize, well, what was this called? Like I do to her, she fails every time. I ask her, what was this 50 years ago or 60 years ago? No, she is.
Every time.
She outwits me every time.
Jim, I would just ask for you to, I was there, it was very, very informative. Please, circulate to all the trustees, the video of that, business seminar.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if you can send it to all the trustees, it was an hour and it was well worth watching.
And you know, what the best part of that was the feedback I got from the businesses that the guy gave the recommendations. Usually people come in and whatever, the amount of participants that right away started to make changes to their storefronts or, you know, really take to what he talked about. It was exciting to see that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, last but not least, where's Uma? Mayor? She's here for Mary today. She, special events coordinator.
Yes, I'll bring you the report. Hitchcock Design is finished with survey and community input meetings. The next step is the envision phase. Hitchcock will create consensus with community leaders on needs for the village for the next 5 years. They will also develop preliminary strategies. The second one is the Aqua Center opened this Memorial Day weekend, and we had about 338 customers come to the pool. The pool opens for the season every day this Saturday, 3rd. Jim stole a couple of my points, but the summer wine walk is this weekend, and tickets are pretty much gone by now, I'm sure. So exciting, the biggest one. Day camp also starts on Monday, June the 5th. We have over 360 kids registered. I'm really excited about this one. The farmers market starts on June 8th. It's the same day of the concert, but we do have 19 vendors for this. 5 of those are produce and baked goods, and then 14 of them are artisans. So honey, microgreens, so a little bit of everything. And we will have some entertainment and background music provided by the School of Rock of Libertyville. The theme of this 4th of July parade will be Broad Stripes, Bright Stars, and Brave Hearts. The Grand Marshal for the parade is the Antioch Veterans Memorial Group. And also new this year is that I think we're bringing back the golf cart and bike decoration contest for the parade.
Thank you. I got one question, trustee Mason.
So for the parks, the big music events and the other Thursday events, I know the Village of Antioch is doing the programs. You get other vendors coming down for the food, right?
Correct.
I heard through grapevine that Open Arms Mission was told no. That they couldn't have a booth to sell popcorn or something.
They can every concert, except, and it was the same situation last year. Just this year, because the concert is so big, the food trucks, I need more food truck space, so I just lack space for any other vendors. But the Open Arms is in for every other concert after. It's just the June 8th, the one that has the limitation.
Just one event, biggest event that they help the needy. So
No, but I will say,
I know,
no, we did have like every service group in Antioch request to sell stuff at that,
Well, I know,
event, which was very difficult space wise. So we tried to give some like alternative spaces. No, I know, but I don't.
We do, and space wise, I wish. we
Yeah,
had
no,
a lot
but
more.
yeah, we definitely.
just starting, and
Thank you.
Your Honor, Your Honor, Your Honor, before she goes, wait,
Steve Pierce.
two things. I'm very excited about the wine walk. Everybody always does a great job with that. It's well attended. I would like to see non-alcoholic events be as well advertised and well attended. If we could come up with some stuff for that. The other question, my main question for you is, why are we charging the kids to decorate their bikes for the 4th of July parade? I could see charging the golf cart people because they're all excited about their golf carts, but kids, I mean, after the last parade, we had kids riding wheelies down the street after the parade. Why do we charge kids?
So on your first question about the wine walk, we did you know, we saw other communities doing this hot chocolate walk, hot chocolate and cookies walk, so we are going to implement that event. It's coming up in the fall, so that's for sure gonna be a hit. It seems like a lot of people were interested in that. So I hope that that gets the interest that we are looking to do. We're maybe pairing it up with some free movie at the theater or something like that. And on your other question, I was hoping that we can, you know, encourage signups. I haven't even had one sign up yet by creating a prize. This would be a cash prize for the best decorated bike and a cash prize for the best decorated golf cart. So for that, I figured $15. I can relook at that, but.
I would ask the rest of the board's opinion on prizes or on charging kids, and maybe we get somebody to sponsor a nice prize.
For what? For the bike
bikes.
decoration.
Oh, for kids
Yeah.
decorating their bike. We should, I'm sure there's corporate sponsors out there.
And I can switch gears on that.
Yeah.
I agree with trustee Pierce. I think we shouldn't charge kids.
Just to go, yeah. Yeah.
Yes, the entry fee, we should get, there's plenty of corporate sponsors out there that don't get money.
Absolutely, yeah, I'll switch gears and I just.
Spin might be a good
Yeah.
All right,
one. All right, thank you. I appreciate it. All right, all good information. Any trustee reports?
I just wanted to bring something up in regards to the skate park. So we were there this weekend. We just got a brand new scooter from Schwinn. I was excited to use it. And when we were there, we noticed there was a younger boy that was there and he brought his own push broom. I was really impressed, but I was also sad at the same time because he must bring that broom there all the time to make sure that, you know, they can sweep out all the glass that's there. And I don't think that the garbage and the glass and whatever else is, you know, on the ground where they're riding is coming from the kids that are using it during the day. I think it's after hours that it's happening, and I know it's not an issue. But there's a lot of trash.
We're hoping that this dusk closing of certain things helps. Is that part of this, Jeff?
So
No, it's-
Yeah.
Yes, you know, not, in addition to the, you know, kids that tend to hang out a little bit late, there's problems, we're also aware that there's, indigent individuals, homeless individuals that, are consuming alcohol in the park. We're dealing with that on a targeted basis. Just comes down to catching them at the moment is the hard thing. But yeah, it's part of the overall strategy too, on the park hours, and I think that's, I don't want to disclose it publicly, but that's some special things taking place to try to target some of those problems there. Because we don't make kids.
Just one more little part about it. That building, the storage building there, so there's the part of the building that's facing the railroad is all graffitied up. So I don't know.
We did have an agreement with the Lions Club for part of that, but I have to look back at the agreement. They were gonna use the Standard Oil building and maintain it, so we may have to look at that agreement to see what we have to do. All right, thank you. It's good to know. We'll talk to Kevin or Chris or whoever else. Anything else? Trustees? Yep. Trustee Peters?
I just have something for Dennis,
Yeah,
the Lions Club, they have permission to put up a bench, and they're waiting to get the concrete poured for it. They're just wondering if they could get that bench done. They have the bench, they just want,
Yeah, well, we have to,
or you have the bench, but they want to get it going.
yeah.
You have some time to do it.
I'm hoping once we get caught up with the landscaping and get ahead of all of, you know, spreading the mulch and edging and everything, just because I have more individuals working on that, so we can get ahead of that and get into concrete work and asphalt work. The other thing is I have to tie it in with other projects, because to order a yard of concrete, I'm gonna get charged a surcharge for a short load, so I was trying to wait until I can dig that out, frame it up, and then I have other areas and do it all as
Sidewalks or whatever.
That's a smart
Okay.
guy, right?
Okay. Okay, thanks. Okay, thank you.
Any other trustees? Trustee Mason?
Oh,
Okay, all right. Well, that means
you know, I.
entertain a motion to adjourn. If there's
I'll move.
second. All right, trustee Masek, second Bluthart, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed? All right, meeting adjourned 7:51. We'll take a 5-minute recess. Call the meeting to order at 7:59. Committee of the whole meeting, roll please.
Here.
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 Spears,
Present.
Mason,
Here.
Peterson,
Here.
Present. No mayoral report, no citizens wishing to address the board that I know of. So the first item on the regular business is presentation of the Marks Master Plan, analyze and concept phase. So, Mr. Kine.
So you have a presentation in your packet. There's a lot of great information in there. Encourage you all to read it. We have Doug Fair here from the Hitchcock Group, who is going to present, and he'll do a high level on this, so we're not here too long tonight, but encourage you all to take a close look at it. There's some really good information in there from the people that have responded to the community outreach portions. With that, Doug Hitchcock will lead you through the presentation.
I'll do my best to face you, but then also kind of check in on the slides. Can I move this a little bit? Is that okay? Real quick. All right, so thanks for the introduction, Jim. I'm Doug Fair. I'm with Hitchcock Design Group. I'm a senior associate, landscape architect registered in the state of Illinois, and we are the planning consultants for this project. So, we're not going to go through all 70 slides today. Those are meant for you to kind of take a closer look at your leisure. Take a deep dive on the information that's provided. The purpose of tonight's meeting, since this is our first check-in with you, is to kind of explain our comprehensive master planning process, kind of a brief touch-in on where we're at, and next steps ahead as we look to complete this later this year. So, okay, so the agenda tonight. So we're going to be going over the analyze phase, the connect phase, and then talk about next steps at the end. So the first couple of phases that we have completed to this point, we break it, you'll see in the slides that follow. We break our planning process into 5 phases. The first 2 that we've completed at this point, the analyze phase, that's where we do a lot of our data gathering. You kind of see agency information, do some benchmarking, kind of high level analysis. That includes our park visits, so we do some inventory there. The connect phase is our community outreach, so that's where we're looking for feedback from residents on what do they want to see be the vision for the next 5 to 10 years of the Parks Department. So our process. So the first 2 phases that you see there, the analyze and the connect phase, those are stacked on top of each other because those are there's a fair amount of overlap with those 2 that pretty much sets the foundation for the planning effort that follows. And from there, we go pretty sequentially in the envision phase. We start to develop some strategies to address the primary needs that we're seeing coming out of those first 2 phases, kind of the stuff that's rising to the top. The prioritize phase is basically where we take those strategies and then we kind of map those out over a 5 to 10 year plan and help prioritize those. So working with staff, obviously have another board check-in as well. And then finally at the end, we land on the implement phase where we put it all into booklet form and look to bring it back to the board for adoption later this fall. So just a little bit more, sorry. So the first couple of slides kind of go over the inventory of the parks. We also take a look at the demographics, location, classification, amenities, and the acreage of the open space offerings. So pulling demographic information, looking at the 2010 census data, kind of see kind of a look backwards. 2022 is the most current data, and then also looking at what's projected for 2027. So you can kind of see what are some of the trends for age. Next one, looking at race and ethnicity, income distribution, and you kind of see where Antioch stacks up nationally or statewide and then nationally. Yeah, thank you. This one. Thank you. Population, we can see continue to grow at a moderate rate over the next 5 to 10 years. Then we get into our mapping. So we obtained county GIS information on the front end. We start to take a geographic look at the current park offerings. So aerial map, context map, kind of seeing where the other agencies, municipalities in the surrounding area. That's tough to read. You can skip it. That just explains the park classification. Inventory map. So start to see and map out where these where the open space and the facilities are. The thick black boundary that you see on all the maps is the village boundary. And then as you can see, the area to the north is obviously Wisconsin. So that'll be key as we kind of go into the level of service mapping maps that follow. Please. This is our park matrix. Let's skip this to the next one. This is a little bit of kind of a, basically we're charting everything in the current offerings, what the totals are, and then the ones that are in red are actually taking a look at the age of those amenities. So purpose is pretty much to see the condition of everything, confirm the numbers that we're seeing, because those kind of set the tone for some of the benchmarking that follows. And then we're starting to look at what some of the amenity and age gaps are. So overall, looking at the open space, kind of the separation of the classifications for the National Parks and Recreation classification. So breaking that up into mini parks, neighborhood, community parks, natural areas, and then undeveloped parks. Please. And then noting amenities, kind of high level analysis here for the playgrounds or beyond their useful life. Again, this is using the state of Illinois and NRPA standards. 2 of the 8 shelters are beyond their useful life. That's 25-year lifespan. 3 of the ball fields are beyond, 3 of the 6 are beyond their useful life. And then both the softball fields are beyond their useful life. Then we also look at amenity mapping. So stuff like playgrounds, shelters, ball fields, court areas, and the service areas that go with those. So those service areas are the small kind of orange outlines. So you can start to see where some of the gaps are for those. Please. You get into facilities, same process, updating the information, confirming that we have all that accurate as we move into the kind of benchmarking analysis that follows. So then what we do, we take the inventory map and we break that out and kind of to take a further level of analysis by developing some planning areas, look at the park distribution within those planning areas, and then the amenity benchmarking. So this is the planning area map, and basically what this does is this allows us to, rather than take a holistic overall look at the current village offerings, we break these off into smaller planning areas. So the small little blue dots indicate those planning areas, and those are basically natural features that create kind of natural barriers. So stuff like larger, busier streets, so Route 59, 83, 173, focusing more kind of on a pedestrian circulation or route of travel. Other natural barriers would be streams, ponds, bodies of water to help establish those planning areas. So first off, in the I think we skipped over the mini park, which is fine. The level of service of the service area for mini parks is about a 1/4 acre. So the area, the orange area within those planning areas, those are clipped to the planning area. You can't have one service area overlap into the other planning area for mini and neighborhood parks. That's also, those aren't just straight quarter mile radii. That's actually figuring public transit or public sidewalks or route of travel. So starting to see where some of our gaps are from a level of service in the park classification standpoint. So the beyond the mini park or neighborhood parks, that service area is expanded to half a mile radius or half a mile service area. Again, these are all walk-to destinations, mini park and neighborhood parks. Then we get into the community service area. And that is a 1 mile service area. And then that also goes beyond the planning. It's not clipped to the bounding areas because community parks are typically more drive-to destinations. So kind of seeing those spill out over the planning area boundaries. Then we stack all those on top of each other for an overall level of service map, and you're starting to see some of the darker areas are the areas that are, not necessarily overserved, but have some overlap, and then the lighter areas are maybe some lesser, and obviously the gaps that you're seeing that don't have any coverage at all, start to make their way to the surface, and for some of the geographical gaps.
Again. It's not responding.
Okay, so benchmarking, so for parks, we break it out, there's two different levels of analysis that we do. And again, the deficiencies, the surpluses, these are just the way we always describe it is, it's like when you're flying a plane, kind of looking at one particular gauge, you're kind of looking at a bunch of different gauges. This is just one, benchmarking tool where you can kind of see where some of the noted deficiencies and surpluses are. So for there's the SCORP, which is the statewide comprehensive outdoor recreation plan. That's based on your population per 1,000 people, what you should have for each amenity. So that's what the deficiencies and the surpluses for the SCORP analysis ends up being. The slide that follows is for park metrics. That's actually for, rather than based on the state analysis or guidelines, it's more factored on agencies or municipalities of similar population, how you are compared to them. So then you can see the deficiencies and the surpluses. For indoor, we just use a tool called Chicagoland Benchmark that shows the current surpluses and deficiencies. So moving on to the Connect phase. This is where we do a lot of our community outreach. We had an online survey last month that closed. It was open for a 4-week period. It was advertised on the village website, social media, and we had just under 300 participants, which is kind of around the average, I would say, for the community outreach that we do for these types of surveys. So we ask questions like, and I won't go into detail with these, but demographic information, like how many people in your household, or the age of the folks in your household, language that you speak in your household, please. Then going into parks, how often you visit. If you don't visit, why not? What's your favorite park? Which do you live closest to? Then asking about their are they satisfied with the parks? If not, what could be added? If you're unsatisfied, you can tell us what you feel needs improved. Then ask for input on potential park improvements, which they thought were most important. Then focus on facilities, kind of same questions, which do you like, which are you unsatisfied with? How important are the new potential improvements? We kind of gave a list. Again, we had some good amount of coordination with staff on the front end, make sure we're asking the right types of questions. Then ask a similar set of questions for programs. So throughout our comp planning process, we're focusing on not just parks and open space, but also facilities and programs, events, and other kind of operational events. That's what's most important for the vision for the next 5 years. We also had stakeholder interviews, online stakeholder interviews, with 4 groups, to those that have kind of a key vested interest in the established vision for the Parks Department over the next 5 to 10 years. And then we had these discussions without staff present, so there was kind of an open dialogue and an exchange of information. Mostly very, very positive feedback. So we met with the education group, this first one, business and kind of historical group lumped together. Mostly kind of we facilitated the discussion kind of what's going well, what's maybe not going so well, and what would you recommend, what would you suggest to improve that. So a lot of information to go off of there. Then we also met with the athletics group and the HOAs, so for Woods, Antioch, and Tiffany Parks. Had a couple of community input meetings, and these are 60-minute long brainstorming exercise, kind of consensus building. Started by handing out some note cards, asked, kind of ran through a same set of focus questions that we did with the stakeholders to generate, any input, any feedback, any and all, good, bad, or indifferent, related to the parks, facilities, and programs. We asked them to take their top 3 ideas from their cards, put 1 each on a sticky note, And then we gathered the sticky notes, put them up on a wall chart, which we had displayed over there. And then categorize those, worked, through a group exercise, make sure we're grouping those accurately. At the very end, we had participants vote on which idea, specific sticky note idea or category they felt they most supported. So the results for the first community meeting are shown there. Most of the votes just went for specific categories. That was consistent at both community meetings. So about 3 weeks later, we had a second community meeting, just same format, just had multiples. If folks weren't able to, they wanted to maybe attend the first community meeting, they weren't able to, they had a second opportunity to do so. But same formats, and then results displayed at the end. So our Connect phase recap, we had 276 responses for the survey, met with 4 stakeholder groups. There was about 3 to 4 participants per group, and then 2 community meetings. The first one I believe had 10, and the second one had 7. So not bad community outreach. So next steps moving forward for us, now that we have kind of our feet under us with the analysis and inventory and the community engagement and feedback, we can start to develop the strategies in the next phase here, which is the vision. So the remaining schedule that you see here, so this being the first check-in at the board level, that's what the purpose of tonight is. Then we we move into the envision phase next month. That will take most of the month of June. Same for prioritize phase of July. I think the next time that we come back will be middle of July, once we have those strategies established and at least our first pass after coordinating with staff, how we're going to prioritize those. And then the implement phase will take up August and September. And our goal is to have the booklet complete and brought back for a formal adoption at one of your cities. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions or comments.
Thank you. That was the best 71-page presentation we've had in a long time. Thank you. All right. Questions? Thank you very much. A lot of good information there. So, I'm going to go start on this side with Katrina. If you had any questions, comments, Trustee Bluthart.
More a comment, more a question, but how do we get, you said it's about average for the community involvement. I went to the second meeting, it was 9 of us there at the time. But there wasn't really, I thought there'd be more people involved. I'm sorry. I thought there'd be more people involved. And I mean, we invited people, we tried to get people out. So how do you take that small group? Do you just assume that everyone else has that same idea, or is there a way of taking just a small group and taking all those ideas they brought to the table and making sure that that's really what the community wants? Or do you account for that in some way?
Yeah, and that's not an uncommon issue with the community meetings, the in-person meetings, getting people to attend those. And that's why we offer the online service. You're able to reach more people and gather that for those of you who want to participate in the community meetings or were able to attend. So, and we're not weighting any of the Connect phase initiatives, over one versus the other. 276 online participants compared to 17 in person. Take that with the stakeholder input. Obviously, had a good amount of interaction and coordination with the staff. Really, next steps for us are to kind of really look at all of those and really see what are the, from those 4 initiatives. What are the key items that we're seeing consistent across maybe 1 or 2 or 2 or 3 or more of them, which are rising to the top, and developing a list of what we're seeing are the preliminary needs. Again, coordinating that with staff, making sure that what we're hearing aligns with what they're hearing, just to make sure that when we move into the envision phase and we start to develop strategies, that we're developing strategies for the best needs based on community and also coordinating that with staff.
And based on the other studies you've done in other communities, I'm assuming there's a lot of similarities to what people want in their parks. And did you find that in this, or has that not been looked at this point?
There's a lot of similarities across the board, because we structure the online survey to make sure we're asking the right types of questions,
We also leave it, certain questions, open comment box at the end, and that kind of, no telling what you're gonna get, but a lot of the typical things that we see, park safety and accessibility, a lot of those items we saw in this survey, which we see, across the board on all vehicles.
And then just last, was there any red flags or anything that stuck out in the replies or the online or anything else that was different than other communities or?
Not red flags, I would say.
Thank you.
My question for you is just logistically, in the envision phase, do we start talking about dollars or just what we like to see, or how does that all come into play?
Thank you for bringing that up. So, well, the final booklet, kind of the nucleus or kind of the guts of it will be what we call the action plan. That's essentially a chart which breaks out, based on your fiscal year, breaks out, year 1, year 2, year 3, 5, and then I think we even go 5 years and beyond, and we break that out by quarter and then separate those into. So it's basically an illustrative graphic showing where these initiatives fall. And part of that, we prioritize where those line up. If it's something that's a high need we want to address early on, that's likely going to go in, year 1 or year 2. And part of weighting those with what we're hearing from the community, you as well, the board here and staff, we also give some because you'll see these are kind of long range, kind of high level plans. We start to give some kind of general range of costs and kind of a total at the bottom, what those shake out to be for each year, and then align that with planned budgets. So you can start to move around those pieces accordingly. If you can see if you have one year that's stacked pretty high cost wise versus the other, that may cause you to move that down the road a little bit or vice versa. If there's a lighter year, maybe move something a little bit further up to align with the attained budget. Really, the end goal is to provide you with a plan, a usable plan that you revisit, frequently, but ultimately is attainable for you. That is something that you can implement based on the input that we receive and the allocated budgets for the years ahead.
Thank you for that.
I just had a quick question. So I'm not sure what slide this is, but it talked about the indoor recreation facilities. And I personally think there's a very big need for that in Antioch. But you guys came up with a surplus. I'm assuming that's because you guys looked at like the senior center and the parks building, other buildings we own, regardless of use, right?
Correct.
Okay. So
It's based on square footage.
okay, so this doesn't address, okay, got it.
It's not, again, it's not saying something, you have a surplus or a deficiency, you have to do it. It's just looking at that benchmarking tool and seeing how you stack up.
So just square footage, not use surplus. Okay, all right, thank you. Trustee Pierce.
Taking myself off mute, I just want to say I agree with everything Brent said.
All right. Trustee Mason.
Are these everything on here, these are all the questions that were asked?
I believe we maybe left out a few, like just for the sake of the presentation.
Okay. I'd like to have all the questions. I didn't see the survey, my fault. There's 380 people that turned the survey back. How many people? 270. One of the questions were, what part of Antioch do you live in, north, south, east, or west, right? That was not part of the question.
It was, do you live in the village of Antioch, township of Antioch, or something?
Yeah, but it wasn't, it didn't say, do you live in north, south, east, west? That's always a problem because there are parts of Antioch that have 0 parks. I need a PDF of this sent to me, please, and the questions. Because we've got a whole section of Antioch with 0 parks, 0 activities for kids to do. When you have an activity, you see the growth in Antioch, and we always lack, and here's where I give my public safety speech, is we gotta start thinking growth. We've had the same number of people at 14, 12, 10,000 for number of police officers, yet our growth keeps going up for population projection. Yet we put more, work on the men and women that we want to protect and keep their Antioch safe. So when I was a kid 5 years ago, in Antioch, you had basically zero to do. You went down to Antioch bowling alley or Ben Franklin to play pinball. That's it. 2 things. There was zero to do. Or you roamed the streets, or you went to high school, or you didn't. There's basically zero to do in Antioch 5 years ago. So there's more stuff to do today than there was 5 years ago. So, but back then, I think back then we had 12 officers with a population of 7,000. It's double. We should consider of saying, we're gonna make a step to say X number of police officers per complete population. We get, as much as it pains, you gotta stay ahead of the pain and taking your medication, and that's part of budgeting. So if you could give me all the questions, because that's probably do these surveys. And when the surveys always went out, we never say exactly what part of southeast, west, is from. And that's where people that are 59, sometimes they have communicated.
One quick follow-up to that, when we develop the planning area map, we're able to, within each planning area, pull population counts from them, so we're able to see if there is a gap in a particular planning area that's very low population, that factors into.
Well, there's 500 homes that you get zeros responses from Heron Harbor because they don't have a park. So why fill out a survey? Because we're the left out subdivision. So they got no skin in the game to fill out a survey. So, I mean, that my point is they don't look a lot at Antioch. You know, when I mentioned, on what Facebook page, they were gonna get those. So that's why when surveys are done, you gotta stipulate, well, which part of Antioch you reside, or southeast or west.
So I believe staff has a copy, the full report.
And the PDF,
survey.
just email the PDF.
Yeah, we can catch that. Thank you. Trustee Peterson.
I just want to make a comment. I read it and it was pretty interesting to read. But what I thought was interesting is that the highest amount of people, and it said, what park do you live near? It's the highest amount is Peters Park, which is Heron Harbor.
Well, that could be for Antioch.
Where I live too, but, and I'm across 173 and 59 from there, but I thought Peterson Park, it has to be Heron Harbor. The majority of people that responded to that was Peterson Park. So that's the only neighborhood over there. So I think, you know, it's a very big interest for people who live in that parks.
Just to build on that, one other thing that caught my attention was, I think the fourth most votes was, I don't know. They don't know.
That was one thing I noticed on the survey, even as the mayor, when it asked about the different parks without a map, I didn't necessarily know the specific names of each park that was on there to be able to vote on. Anything else? So you're coming back here in July, I think I saw the presentation.
Yep.
Okay, July 17th. All right, everybody read up, bring your ideas, talk to Mary, Marissa, Jim, whomever with your contacts, but thank you for the presentation and some statistics of these parks.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, next item is discussion regarding a memorandum of understanding between the Village of Antioch, Board of Education of Community High School District 117, Police Chief Gutchow.
Yes, so just very briefly, our current agreement with the school district expires at the end of this school year.
This is an update to that agreement. In drafting it, we sought to consolidate other agreements that we currently have with the district, being the reciprocal reporting of certain crimes and sharing of information. This will be a 2-year agreement. We shortened it down for a number of reasons. One, to keep it in term with the mayoral term, as well as giving us an opportunity to reevaluate our costs in 2 years. It's a little bit unpredictable.
Questions about this item?
So after reading this, it states that it's only.
Correct.
I'm sorry, what is she saying?
Sorry. The 95,000, I was asking if that, was just the salary or if that included benefits or anything.
So the term is used is salary, you're correct. So when we looked at a couple of different cost sharing models throughout some other districts, some specify certain specific dollar amounts as we did, others specify a percentage. The conversations with the superintendent, we elected to go with a flat dollar amount for the next 2 years. It allows us to predict from a cost recovery standpoint what we're going to recover, also help the district budget bit more accurately on their end for what it's going to cost for services. And again, any additional outside costs that are not associated necessarily with the SRO role, such as they're using our services for additional police presence at the football games or graduation, those sort of things. We will be invoicing the district to recover those costs.
Any other questions?
Does Lake County, the police dog, do they charge for police dog?
You talking if we use their canine services?
Well, canine services, if we do, it's, sweep sections.
No, there's no cost. So usually we coordinate those. We utilize Lake County, a number of other stages that have canines as well. There's a couple boxes of bagels and stuff. There's no cost.
The dogs?
Dogs like them. In addition to that, the school also contracts with a private vendor to conduct their own canine sweeps at the premises. Sweeps, they're not a police patrol dog or
Just one quick question. Do you do anything with the high school in terms of like informational meetings with the parents and the students about inappropriate texting? Because I know when my son went through high school, it was a scary 4 years with the kids and their phones. And I felt like maybe not all the parents and not everybody was on the same page. And I constantly lived in fear of what might be, what he might pass along or other kids. There wasn't at that time. This was like 2014, 15, 17. Do you do meetings like that now to help?
don't get me started on cell phones.
Okay, it was a really rough time. I was constantly taking it away from them, and there was a black market where the kids were trading phones, and he would have a phone again. It was a rough.
Yeah, many years ago, we had programs like DARE and those type of things, and those pretty much went away nationally. And over the last couple of years, we really tried to focus on ways that we could fill some of the voids created by those programs kind of just going away. We conduct some programming internally with the school. We do some sexting courses. One of the kind of cool shifts that we've really focused on with the school resource officer over the last few years since we've implemented this is when they originally came to the schools, it was a glorified security gig in a lot of ways, right? It was just the armed presence, making sure kids are following the laws, enforcing laws, that sort of thing. Whereas now we've really shifted it more into a supplemental educational component. There's certainly the security component that comes with having a police officer in the school, but really building bridges with these kids, taking advantages of having an officer in the school to do some of these educational opportunities. So they do host some sexting courses and dangers of cell phones. We will host some drug awareness programming where we bring our partners like Lake County Mag in. They come in and they provide some drug awareness courses for both parents, students, and staff. We've also done some
larger scale community outreach events too. So yes, short answer to your question is yes, we need to provide some resources to parents and kids. And a lot of those things take place at the beginning of the school year during presentations and that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I'm glad that they do, because it was eye-opening for me, all the things that, especially if you have an 18-year-old boy and they're getting pictures, and if you can't, you know, it was just a tough time, so I'm glad that they're doing that more proactively now.
Yeah, it's really just teaching kids that once you post it online, it never goes away.
Thank you. So, we
Your
will
Honor.
move this to the, trustee Pierce, yep.
I'm sorry. I have a question for the chief, and if he could speak into the microphone more, that'd be nice. If I read in there a section where there's a reporting requirement for crimes against teachers, forcible crimes, forcible felonies, firearms against teachers. What is the reporting requirements of crimes against other students?
So the crimes that are laid out in the reciprocal reporting and the mandatory reporting are laid out by state statute. And Attorney Vasily, if I misspeak, please correct me. The rest of the reporting requirements is crimes against students. Again, there's certain crimes that are specified by statute that the schools or teachers have to report. There's also mandated reporting when teachers become aware of certain instances of neglect or abuse that they're obligated to report. But much of the other reporting crimes against, the student to student type crimes are really dictated more by board policy. The district has a pretty open and well-observed policy of reporting all its instances of criminal acts to us, even when they're not necessarily obligated by law to do so. So we do have a very strong relationship with the school district. We work well to make sure any instances or concerns are addressed.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? All right, we'll move this to the next board meeting, June 14th for approval. All right, thank you. Vote. Next item or last item on the agenda is a discussion regarding the ordinance repealing Village Code section 1-4-5C related to the liaison structure of the village board. This was a discussion at the last quarterly meeting. I'm aware that not all trustees were present at that meeting. Out of this, we have come up with what we all witnessed on the reports by rotating reports by department heads, because there was some maybe concern that trustees were not as informed regarding certain departments as they could be. So it's open for discussion tonight. This would basically give all the trustees equal access to the department heads for whatever purpose, not have specific liaisons, but also require them to come to the village board meetings for presentations. So with that, I'll open the floor to trustees for discussion, since this was only been discussed at the quarterly meeting, and there was, I think, four or five of the trustees present. So anything on this side, any discussion? No, trustees on this side, discussion? Okay.
So I understand your point of the liaison role. I think the liaison has probably an important feature at budget time, where that liaison role in the ditch with that person, say, man, we need this, we need that. I really need to help me with this aspect of it. That's where I think the liaison role becomes the most effective. They can sit down and be that advocate for that department and in the budget process, and help with the other trustees communicate. Hey, I need 5 new mowers because of the park, or maybe 3 more police cars, which we got, or the vests, which we got, that worked out. That's where I think the liaison role shines in this part, and that's why I think it was created in the past. Is not so much for an everyday basis, but more so it shines at budget processing. It's working well. They come and give the reports. But that's where I think you develop friendships. I got a friendship with Dennis. Say the chief, Jim, everybody, and I can call anybody like Garrett. But when it comes to someone that they're comfortable with, hey, I really need to. I want to bounce this idea off you. That's where I think the liaison where it comes. I need your help at budget time. I need you to do this. You're the guy. So I think that's where liaison.
And I hope those, yeah, I mean, I want those relationships to stay too,
Yeah.
because, obviously certain people and certain staff feel more comfortable talking to certain trustees or relationships, but, I guess we, continue to, like I said, this is the first discussion on this. We pretty much, for all constructive purposes, made the switch to see how this works. Yeah, I can see that point.
Because and again, I see the point. Why you think it's a bad idea? Because liaison role was bullied. Not the great name, so I see that point. At that point, the leadership role should have been taken in the past, so you guys stop it. That part, when trustees, making a statement, it said, this is taking place. Something was done, so that was stop. But that being said, I think there's a role for a liaison, and I think for trustees to call every trustee on the board, it shouldn't be an issue. You can't call someone and say, hey, so and so, I've got a special relationship, over a cup of coffee came up to me and said this, whatever. And Dennis might say it to me, and I'm not the liaison, but someone might feel comfortable, but I just think at budget time, that's where it shines.
Your Honor,
Oh, yes,
is Ed done?
yeah, it's a,
Trustee Masek, I'm sorry. My input on it is basically the same as what I had at the committee meeting that we held. I think that though he has valid points, I think the liaison becomes another burden to the department head by having to focus on what he's going to do that month for that liaison
Can't hear
report.
his
I'm sorry, I'm talking as loud as I can. Can you hear me better now?
yeah, hear you now, yep.
Okay, I think that the liaison is more of a burden to the department heads than an asset. Yes, they can promote certain things for the department heads, but such as budget time, I believe that the discussions should be held at the board meetings with all the trustees and having committee of the whole meetings to discuss our budgets and what we're going to spend money on. I don't necessarily agree that a couple people should sit in the back room and come up with what the budgetary items are going to be the priorities for the budget. I think for transparency, all our budget discussions should be public and should be in front of the public so that they know what we're thinking and how we're spending it. So not only is the budget, this resolves the budget issue, it also removes an additional layer between the board and the department heads. And as I stated before, I really like the department heads coming here and speaking to all the board, and so that we know everything that's going on instead of getting an email. Here's your report for the month that I spent 10 hours working on. So I would be in support of removing the liaison position and encouraging more meetings with staff publicly with the entire board.
Thank you. I know trustee Peterson had her hand up.
Yeah, I did. I think that any of the department heads can call any one of us and ask for help with anything. I need your help because this is what I'd like to do, and I've talked to Jim about it, and this is something that I would like to either purchase, use, implement, whatever. I think that any of the department heads can call any one of us. And yes, there are probably some that they're talking to, and they can call them. we don't necessarily have to be a liaison. We can be there for them after they need us, not to go around your kind, of course, but, if they, you know, if they've talked to them, Jim says, give them a call, ask them how they feel about it. There's nothing wrong with that.
All right, so consensus to move this to the next board meeting as well, which is June 14th. Sounds like a lot of voting and some big items on the 14th, but I think that's the last item on the agenda tonight. Fold it up here, gotta find it again. Any other business that we need to discuss? Any requests for executive session? All right, otherwise I entertain a motion to adjourn, please.
So
So moved.
Trustee Luther, second trustee Pierce, all in favor,
I mean,
any opposed? Meeting adjourned at 8:44.